It's the ORWO film test video monologue thing, whatever. Take 5, I think. As it goes with these videos, it just takes me a very long time to record them in a way that I like. That's why this has taken about 5 times to record. In reviewing the previous iterations of this, is just there, you know, I meamble about points that don't matter. So I'm gonna make very concise points, very short video, very instructive, and hopefully helpful. I was gonna write a script too, but then I was like, that's not me. Come in close. I don't write scripts for these things. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about Wolfen. ORWO Wolfen is like one of the OG film manufacturers. They trace their lineage back to like Germany in the early 1900s. I've shot some of their black and white motion picture stock, and I absolutely adore it. So when I learned that they were releasing this new color film emulsion, I was like, I gotta get in on that. So I got a few rolls of that. And like I said, it's called 500 NC. Now I took that NC as very literally as North Coast, Northwest Coast. So decided to load that up in the trusty Nikon F3. Brought a buddy of mine, Juxtaposition on Instagram. You can check him out here. I definitely recommend it. He takes some of my favorite photos, quite frankly. And I'm not just saying that because he's my buddy, but like they're really good photos, and he's just got a really good eye for it. So we went on a little trip out to the coast, took some pictures, had some laughs, and this is the footage. Really good trip overall. The weather conditions were not the best. As you can tell, it was very windy. We got there And it was one of those situations where I tried opening the car door and had so much resistance from the wind trying to close it that I ended up like in a little homemade panini press in the car door. And then of course we get there, I get all my stuff put together, and we're walking down this hill, and I have a little life alert moment going down the hill and chew up my knee pretty bad, but it's all good. All of the cameras were safe. My knee only hurts every now and again, so well, it's all good. It just is what it is. Because of the weather conditions being what they were, didn't really get the most amount of video content as I would have liked. And I think it also kind of poorly affected the quality of the images I took. But overall, I'm still pretty happy with a couple of them. The defining elements of this film is on ORWO's site. And basically they were trying to replicate an older AGFA stock. AGFA is another one of like the OG film producers in Europe. And this particular stock had been used for a movie. This movie, I don't remember what it was, but I know it's directed by the guy from Eyes Wide Shut that does like the little scepter thing at the party. So this movie, I don't know, I watched the trailer for it. It's got Robert Redford, who's just an absolute babe in it. And I think it was Meryl Streep, or no, what's her nuts? I don't know. The actress lady, she's got a bad accent in it. It doesn't look very good, but the film looks pretty interesting, like visually interesting. The film, I didn't really get the vibrant greens it was talking about, and I think that was just because of how overcast it was. A lot of the colors are pretty muted, but what I will say is there's so much detail in the shadows. Like, I'm very impressed with the amount of detail and the grain structure of the film overall. Like, it's not like Ektar sharp, but in terms of like a new film stock being introduced, like it's pretty nice. There's enough exposure latitude to where you can really make some adjustments to these photos if you so choose. I know a lot of people out there don't like editing film photos, and I mean, if you do, great. I edit a lot of my photos, but that's mostly because I shoot with expired stuff, so you kind of have to get any kind of workable image out of it. But a lot of people like to just have it like, this is how it was naturally, which I totally get too. More power to you. I'm not a purist in that sense, but the photos that I'm showing here are all unedited, for better or worse. And despite my inability to take good photos on this trip, I still think they turned out pretty nice. There's like a nice gradient from the sky downwards. There's still like some detail in the sky too. It's not completely blown off. There's like a little bit of coloration, which is interesting. And then even in the trees in the background, you can still pick out the individual bits of trees, and it's not just like a black blurb. So that's nice. This image number 3, I took with a telephoto lens that I had on the f3. And this is one that I feel like a lot can be done to doctor it a little bit. I probably should have shot it at like bumped up the exposure a little bit more, but it is what it is. It looks a little bit crushed, I think. But it's interesting because there's the white caps of the waves that are coming in, and then like the rocks being as black as they are. You can just see the variation of exposure between them all. There's still some detail in the rocks and the shadows, and the waves aren't completely blown out. Image number 5, I think, is one of my favorites that I took on this little trip, mostly just because it's the one that I think I did the best job framing. Or they did the best job with the composition. Kind of ducks down, and then the horizon sits at the top of the hills, which you can barely make out because it is so foggy and overcast. But it does look very cold. And the silhouetting of the trees against the ocean, I just think is kind of a cool look. But you can still see that there's like little bits of color down towards the bottom of the frame in that grass area. It's a little pops of like warmth of that. This one. I don't want to talk about too many of these because in the other versions of this video I've recorded, I've talked about too many photos, and it ends up being like a 30-minute long video of me just blah, 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 which I think would work if I had more video to show you. But because the video is so short, I just don't want it to be like, here's a fun little trip and then here's me rambling on about it. But this one, image 13, I really enjoyed, namely because of the composition of it again, and because of the color. It's a very like deep color. There's something about coming up to the Pacific Northwest, the coastline up here. We don't have like the sunny, vibrant beaches with like all of the people laying out on their beach towels and soaking up the sun and getting skin cancer and all that. Everything is so much colder up here. We got like rocky beaches, and there are definitely sunny days, obviously, but like it's just a different kind of environment. And it's something like I even recognized as a kid growing up here. Like I've always enjoyed that because it's more quiet, it's more honest. Like you're not out there trying to impress anybody. You're just exploring this like really interesting and like naturally beautiful place. So I kind of capture a little bit of that in here. This is of course part of Haystack Rock, nestled into the crook of this tree. And if you look down at the base of the crook, there's like a little bit of a rooftop that lines up, makes like a little diamond shape, but that's not an Illuminati thing. That's just a diamond. It's just that geometric thing. The one issue that I had with this image initially when I got it back was this gas meter it's some kind of meter on the side of the house in the right side of the frame, until I looked over and directly on the left side of the frame, almost mirroring it, is the chimney. And just the way that they sit kind of on the same latitude, but on separate sides, I kind of enjoy that. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this one. I do think it does a good job showing the detail in the shadows again, like really nice sharp grains. Image 21, not my favorite, I'll be honest. I shot this from the car window as I was like driving by, so it's not the best. But really what I wanted to do was kind of frame part of this car and then frame the windows behind it, because the windows had a blue trim. This Cadillac was blue, and I just thought it would look really cool to kind of see the blue of the house or the blue of the car and match that up. I could have done a much better job with that, I think. But framing point aside, it's so muted. The colors are so muted. And again, this is what I was saying, is that there is a lot of latitude for editing, but the colors themselves right now, it's almost like shooting raw, digital video, whatever, where it's just kind of, here's the base. You can do whatever you want with it, but as it stands, it's not the best look. And I just find that interesting because there's so many color films out there that are really pushing like their version of reality. Like this is what the world looks like on Portrait. This is what it looks like on Ektar. This is what it looks like on Fuji C200. This is what it looks like on Cinestill 50D. All these different things, which are great. But at the end of the day, like that's not real. And neither is this by any stretch of the imagination, but like you can manipulate this to look more like whatever you want it to, versus those others which kind of serve as like, this is what you're gonna get in a sense. I need to work on that thought a little bit more, but it's something that I noticed when going through this. It's not my favorite photo. I definitely am not very fond of it, but I don't know, it was an interesting point that was brought up in reviewing the footage. Overall, what I think about ORWO 500NC, I've got more rolls. I'm definitely looking forward to shooting more of it. I think it does a better job of what Lomography Metropolis is trying to do. Metropolis is, of course, like the more muted, like industrial color scheme that they were going for, but I could just not get consistent exposure from frame to frame. And also, like, there's no detail in the shadows at all in Metropolis. Like, I remember I got some photos back, and I'm like, not my favorite film. I don't actually think I've ever talked to anybody who does like it, to be fair. So if you do like it, or if you know someone who likes it, please reach out. Like, I'm open. Like, I've got an open mind for these things, but I've only had negative experiences for it. This, I will say, I had a negative experience with, but that was more because I wasn't really in a creative mood. I don't think I did the best taking pictures. I didn't do the best of the video. But overall, the film itself, I think is great. I think in the future, I'll probably jot out a little bit more of a script, but we'll see what happens. For now, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you go check out the film for yourself. I definitely think it's worth it, at the very least. Also, I do have a new mic coming in the mail soon, so I should have better audio quality. And I also have another podcast interview coming up very shortly. I just have to edit it. But I'm stoked about that too. So stay tuned for better audio experience. Stay tuned for another interview podcast thing. And yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more fun content. I actually got a lot more stuff rolling out that I'm excited for. So subscribe so you don't miss out. Buy some ORWO film. Support all of these film companies if you can. We want to be seeing more film. We want to be seeing them take more risks. All of this is really good for the industry overall. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.